Hi, good evening. Clear back there? Everyone okay? Thank you. Okay, let's jump into this directly without any more further ado. I'm a sculptor, and I started literally after finishing my 10th standard in school, and I didn't know what to do, so I would go to garages, I would go to construction sites, pick up a lot of metal. Nobody would stop you because when you see a kid picking up stuff from the road and siphoning stuff from here, they don't normally say anything, and then you put it together. So it literally started like a jigsaw puzzle where I would pick up pieces and recognize what they are. The hinge of an old Ambassador car appeared to me like tadpoles peeking out of the water. A big washer in a machine appeared to me like a sombrero, so then I would make Mexicans and stuff like that. So what started off as a hobby and a very playful way of doing things, and still very playful to me, ended up being my profession. I joined architecture because dad and mom said, no only playing with metal and no welding day in and day out. You have to have a life, you have to have a graduate degree, etc. So I joined architecture. And finally, after finishing architecture, again I dropped it and went to do sculpture. So starting right from the beginning, this is what I started with, okay? This is one of my first pieces. Now, what happens is, I'm not only going to show you my sculptures, what I want to tell you about is how, without an art education, you form your own aesthetic discipline within you. No one teaches you anything, but as you go on, you realize what looks good and what doesn't look good. And slowly, as you keep on going on, your senses become so powerful, you're able to ascertain all that immediately. So 30 years from now, I simply can look at something and sort of give an opinion as to what looks good and what doesn't. So this is what I started off with. You see that? Machine parts. And just sometimes very accidentally you hit on some things. You look at that man there who's staring down at the board. The piece of the head is the elbow that you use in normal plumbing pipes and all that. And suddenly I realized that that void which is there in the head looks as if he's concentrating on the board. So it's something that comes out and you put it together and then you make magic like that. And at this time, let me remind you, it was absolutely like a hobby. I never realized that one day I would be living off it and I would make a sort of profession of it anytime, So that's it. A lot of truck parts put together. That's Sir Lancelot. Very heavy truck parts. And if you go back to the first one, you see the flimsy hair and you see stuff like that. Now imagine using that in something like this. You can't. So every piece has a language. Every piece belongs somewhere. I'll tell you something very interesting. I took a weighing scale and I all broke it up completely and I made a court jester from that. And then I realized there one or two pieces were missing. I needed some more pieces. And then when I started looking around, I found one more weighing scale from which the pieces came out. So it was like a big family reunion of weighing scales coming together. So it was all separated and again it came back to make sense in another form. It's literally like giving metal a new life. Okay, for the first time I said, let me do something. People carve a lot of metal, people carve a lot of wood and stone. I said, let me carve a little metal and see. So this is like carved from one solid block of metal. Okay, it's the Maasai warrior woman. Once or twice I experimented with metals, just no form at all, no human forms, just experimented with aluminium, tried to burn it and trying to get the textures out. I call this thaw. Thaw as in when you see a ice lake and it melts and you see the water moving below, so that's what I called it. And something like this, again with copper, called embers. So, going on to my next one. Okay, I'll tell you what, Ajit knows me since a long time and all that. I love humor. I love humor in every form. And I put that in my works sometimes, and I've done these works for 2 exhibitions in 2004, 2005, putting my titles first and then forming the piece. So, this particular one is called the laptop model. Okay? So you see that? So that's called the laptop model. I love playing around with words like that. This one's called the king of the... I'm the king of the world, and it's a play on Leonardo DiCaprio standing on the ship of the Titanic, and Leonardo da Vinci standing in front of the Mona Lisa. And you see the weird expression on Mona Lisa's face. This one is called the centerfold. Imagine if, you've seen 3D movies. 3D magazines currently come out and you'll get centerfolds like this, okay? So there's a wood carving called the centerfold. This one's called Aspas. It's one of my favorites. Okay? And again, coming to this, the 2 women in a bathtub. And these midday ads which show you before and after, where they Photoshop you this way and all that. So this was called Tub or Rub. So it's a play on the word that. And I had it in an exhibition once, and the small children come and see it, and they gather around it, and I was wondering what they were talking about. I always find it very interesting to hear what observers talk. And I went there, and they both were discussing, my mummy is somewhere in between these two or something like that. So it's lovely to get a response like that. It's wonderful. In a country where contemporary art is not so much out on the streets and all that. You put something out, you'll be amazed at the responses you get. You remember the rhinoceros which I put in Nariman Point? When I was installing it, a group of policemen came and they started discussing as to why I put a kangaroo out there. I took quite a lot of time explaining to them it's not a kangaroo. Okay, this is one of the sculptures where you see a man holding a matchstick, and there's another one who's got a Fevikwik tube and with a sort of a magnifying glass sort of thing. It's called match fixing, okay? So this one happened in the 2005, 2000. And a lot of times you get asked these questions as to where you get your inspiration from, where do you get your ideas from. So I say, God knows. So this is God knows. Okay. And the halo that you see there is actually gold-plated. You see the reflection of the halo at the back. Okay, so it's purposely done. Then the eyebrows are done like sort of the wings of an angel and all that. And sometimes I'm not always that funny. Sometimes I like playing serious stuff also. I'll come to that. This is a place where they used the frogs as a mascot everywhere. This is in Ambi Valley. And, oops. Okay, I don't know what's happened to this, but this is called, okay, here. This is called The Awakening. About 3 or 4 years, I was being very funny, and I did all these funny sculptures, and suddenly I realized, I said, why not? I felt like they're turning a bit serious, and then I went into larger-than-life sculptures, and this is called The Awakening. It actually was an awakening for me where I abandoned my normal style of working and came out into a serious sort of an effect. This one, one of my favorite ones, this is Mr. Bachchan on the KBC seat, okay? And this was done for his 70th birthday. So what I want you to see basically is from the horse to here, there is a lot of diversity. I keep on experimenting with machines. And the best thing as an artist, what you do is, you work with the same machines that engineers work with, that fabricators work with. But you defy the machine at every point. You defy everything that the machine does. Like, for example, a welding machine is meant to join two pieces together. An engineer would do that. I would use the same to cut the metal to see what happens. Okay, as an artist, you have the freedom to do that. You do not have to follow rules. You think out of the box. Like, for example, a metal grinder is used to normally sort of smoothen things out. I actually use it to scar the surface and to break things, okay? My parents were very scared of me. They kept everything away from me because I would break things and remold it together to form all this. I was in a different zone when I was sculpting, and I kept at it, okay? So this one's Mr. Bachchan on the KBC chair. These are recently, I made these at the Hilton, Bangalore, where they are created out of, these are about 9 feet tall. So this is what I do also. I take these large pieces of metal and sort of formulate the design of the sculpture based on where the site is. It's called commission sculptures. I normally do stuff only for my exhibitions, and the second part of me does stuff for architectural sites where I see stuff, where I study the client, where you study the atmosphere, you study the space, and then you design according to it. Just for example, the sculpture that you put in a contemporary office, a very stainless steel sharp sculpture, you can't put in a home. In a home where I put a small mother and child or something like that, I can't put again in a corporate office. So everything depends on the design. And the best part about it is as you're going along, you actually form these disciplines in your mind. If you see a space, immediately the design strikes you. And I have a way of working where I've been called by an architect. There is one, I'm doing one project for him as well. And you see the space, the idea strikes at once. But sometimes you just cannot put it down on paper. Something is stopping you like a writer's block. You just cannot put it down on paper. So what I do is I have a trick now. So if not sort of wanting the interest of the client to die out, I call the client and I say your design is ready. I have not done anything, okay? But I say your design is ready. Okay, you give me a meeting 3 days from now. Okay, now there's a deadline. So then I finish the work and then take it to him, okay? So that's how I do work. So many times. This one's called Dreams, again in a residential sort of a space. So being an architect, you can imagine stuff. You can sort of give vision to very abstract sort of stuff. So here it is. I love using wings everywhere because wings suggest a sort of a lightness, a sort of a freedom, a sort of a form of expression of growing, rising, everything. So I use the wings in a lot of my places and sculptures. So you would have known by now how much diversity I have in my works, but that's the way I am. I always tell people my work reflects what you are. You won't see any of my sculptures lying down or sleeping because that's not the way I am. Henry Moore, the British sculptor, would make a lot of sculptures sleeping, reclining poses and sort of stuff like that. Mother and child, all reclining, a lot of contact with the horizontal ground. And I'm right the opposite. People complain I don't sit in one place at the same time. You can realize that from the way I'm talking also. I talk very fast. So all the sculptures somehow reflect that. They all seem to jump off the pedestals. They are very alive. And coming to the last one that I've done recently, this one is an assembly of 365 metal plates. It's about 3.5 tons and it hangs from the ceiling. It's about 25 feet diameter. It's for an IT industry, for a information technology building, which houses these sort of things. And this is the way it is. If you see the diversity, you saw the frogs out there. Now, that is for a recreation space. I can't suddenly put frogs in a hotel with where there's IT industry. So, every place, everywhere, there is a demand, there is everything, and you go according to the design. And touch wood, I mean, from my experience and all that, you normally don't go too wrong. And it's an enjoyable experience. Like people say, why do you go to work on Sunday? I don't go to work on Sunday. I go to my studio on Sunday. I never work. 365 days of the year, I'm never working. I'm only playing with metal. That's it. Thank you.